Okay guys, next video I'm going to talk about Social Security. And I think half of the battle, the problem is I end up talking politics with people, but they haven't cracked a book. And therein lay the problem, is that if you watch the news and you listen to the radio, you are not well informed. All of that information is being condensed down and it's being filtered and distilled into through a lens. The only way to really understand things, in my opinion, is to actually read whole books. And because it's undistilled. This author has 10 hours of your time to actually put forth their viewpoints. So what I've found is most people don't even know what Social Security is. And I don't even know what it is. So I got on Wikipedia, and by the way, I think Wikipedia is a good and trusted source. And really, ultimately, you'll find if you're omnivorous like I am, like you go to a lot of different sources, you listen to a lot of different things. You'll find 10 people saying 10 different things. And in the end, you're going to have to pick something. You're going to have to pick who are you going to believe. So, Social Security is a thing where, oh my gosh, this is it. Boom, this whole giant thing. And this is a condensed version of it. But you know what? Basically what happens is Social Security is collected through business owners. And what happens with that is that makes me, the business owner, an unpaid public servant. And that's one of my major grievances that I have with the United States federal government. I would like to say, as I always say, I'm a firm believer in nonviolence. I'm not even following the route of civil disobedience. I still believe that things can be changed through the political process, and that if we take the long view, and the real permanent change is going to come through education, through changing public perception over time, which is what I'm doing right now. I have 80 subscribers on this channel, and I'm trying to, crack this permafrost of the last 100 years of kind of how we've done things. So what happens is I get an employee, and you're not allowed to pay somebody unless they're your employee or a subcontractor. Most of the time it's an employee. That is really the only safe way to employ somebody. And the reason for that is the government likes employees because it brings in the most revenue. And so what's funny to me is that, well, why don't they tax that person directly? No, they don't. The employer has to pull money out of their check, called withholding. And so every month I send in the taxes, and if they don't get sent in, I get a note. And the note says, hey, you filed tax returns saying you were supposed to withhold X amount from your employees, and you didn't send in that amount, and they start tacking on penalties. And the penalties are draconic. By the way, that is not an exaggeration. They are 10% per month, and it's all payable immediately. And you can get completely hosed financially on this if you get behind even a little bit. So, but you also pay, and I've explained this before, you also pay employer side taxes. So you match the taxes. So I have to withhold taxes from my employees, plus for every dollar that they get that I transfer along to the Treasury, I have to add a dollar. And so that is Social Security. So apparently Social Security came along in 1935 as part of Roosevelt's New Deal. And so I'm reading this article, and I found something extremely interesting that I want to talk about. And originally it was only 1%, right now it's up to about 8%. Well, if it's proportionate, and there's more people, why does that number need to go up? Why is it going up and up and up? Will it ever stop going up? So I wonder, will it ever be, will my great-grandchildren be paying 20%? And then the company paying another 20% on top of that? So hold on, I'm looking for this one thing. Come on, where are you? All right, hold on. All right, I'm ready. So one thing that interested me about this was that payroll taxes were first collected in 1937, also the year in which the first benefits were paid. The first monthly payment was issued in 1940, January 1940, to Ida Mae Fuller of Vermont. So here she is. That's what she looks like. And she paid in $24 into the system, but she received, during her lifetime after she retired, she lived to be 100 and collected $22,000. And as I was reading this, it occurred to me, like, okay, so think about this. We don't have a democracy where all people have a vote, yes or no, on every single piece of legislation. We have a republic where you elect representatives, congressmen and senators. They go to Washington and they create bills and pass them or vote them down. So I wasn't around when all this was being decided. So that's A, and I put that forth as a fact, that a group of people, i.e. the elected representatives of the United States public, in 1935 put into place a system by which the younger people who were still working would pay for the older people who were no longer working. And what a glistening ruby red apple that must have been to find out that Ida Mae had done so well on this program, effectively at the expense of other people. Other people worked, Ida Mae ate the benefits of it. Didn't Ida Mae plan for her own retirement? How did that work? And so that was the first kind of like glass shattering. Was, oh my gosh, that's beautiful. Now, so imagine a let's say there was never Social Security. So let's take two groups that are the same age and imagine similar legislation coming out. Let's say men and women. So let's say there was a thing saying, well, men, for example, should be taxed, and that another group of people, say women, they'll receive the benefits of this tax. And you can put the lipstick on as thick as you want. But effectively, it's a transfer from one group to another. Now, I would just bet you there would be a hearty debate on this matter. Already, I'd be surprised if me just saying that as like something that could have happened in an alternate universe is getting somebody's hackles up right now. Oh, how dare they, da da da. Well, what if it was women being taxed and giving it to the men? So imagine that. There would be quite a debate on it. But then, in the end, the congressmen and senators would go in, they would vote, and then one group, either it would be left alone, or one group would be a payer, and another group would be the payee, and there would be a transfer of what you'd like start this river of money going from one group to the next. So, but think about what happened with me. I was born in 1969, so all of this was well decided before I was 3 years old when they were actually ramping up this program in 1972. I didn't get a chance. This is taxation without representation. This is taxation without conception. I didn't get to decide on it. And you might think, well, Sean, you could always, the new generation could abolish the system, could get rid of Social Security. But think of how insidious that is. Now it's been started. So that means the people that are retiring say, well, I paid into this program, so now I expect my money. That's what my grandma has said that. I paid in, I'm getting my money. She doesn't care that there may be some immoral aspect to it. Yeah, sorry, Grandma, but there it is. And But the fact is, what happens with Social Security, now that it's no longer a trust, the money goes from the people who work to the government. The government then wastes it or spends it on current retirees. So you're not getting your own money back. The government spent your money already. So how can you ever get rid of this system? And that's my wild hair, is my great-grandparents and my great-great-grandparents. I believe they were either foolish, they were deceived, or they were immoral. They created a system that was just plain wrong. Ida Mae Fuller plucked this juicy apple. Oh, wow. $24 in, $20,000 out. Excuse me, $24 out, $20,000 in. Awesome. Oh, that's fantastic. Who wouldn't love that? And it probably was sold as, hey, look, you're doing something great for those elderly people. We have a duty. We have a duty to take care of our old people. I couldn't agree more. Your duty is to take care of your old people. In other words, I want to be writing my mother's Social Security check. And if I can't afford that, she'll have to move in with us. And it'll be a pain, but at least we'll be together. And that's where there's the family versus government thing. You know? And for me, the jury's still out on that. Like, how would that actually work? You know? Because I look at how many people are getting Social Security in my family, and I'm like, wow, could I really shoulder that? Well, if they had had more kids, the answer is yes. I come from a very small family. My mom has one sister. My dad's side of the family is estranged, so I can't speak for them. My mother has one sister. That one sister had one daughter. So I have one cousin, effectively growing up I had one cousin, and then I just have one sibling. I have a younger sister. And that's it. So that is quite a few people up here, depending on quite a few people down here. So, but my point is that it's one group benefited from another group that didn't have a chance to fight back, didn't have a chance to say, you know what, I don't like this system. So now, and by the way, I'm about to make sure I never have a political career. If I had a button that would end Social Security right now, this very minute, like after I hit that button, no more checks would be issued, but the income tax would also be completely abolished. I would smack that button in an instant. And if the old people complained, I would redirect their complaints. I'd say, please, here's the office of the United States government. They took your money and they spent it on other things. They spent it on the generation before you. So I didn't benefit. I'm still paying in. I've never got anything out of it. That our generation, that's our money. I think the elderly folks across the street, I think they should come across to my house and endorse their Social Security check, and they should give it to me. And then maybe I could give it back to the people that work for me from whom that was taken. It's a problem. One generation stole from another unborn generation. That's what they did. They set that up. Now, so I'm putting that out there. Is there a counter argument? Am I wrong? Let us hear your case. Now let's imagine the other way around. What if what if the younger generation, they got organized enough, got enough political oomph, and so now all the senators and congressmen were listening to us, and so like the opposite of the AARP, you know, the like people under 30 had like this giant voting block. And what if they reversed it? What if they said, all right, old people, you're going to be taxed, and young people just getting started out, they're going to get a check in the mail. So you turn 18, and all of a sudden you're getting your, let's call it youth security check. So you start getting a check, and then when you turn 40, you start paying into it until the day you die. Let's say it never goes away. That if you have a job over 40, you pay out 16% or whatever it is on the net. And then that goes to the youth. I'm not proposing that. I'm saying that would also be immoral. But think about that for a minute. Would that be the right thing to do? Would that be okay? And this burrows right down to bedrock, which is, what right does the United States federal government have to take from one group and give to the other group? If you accept that power, even for $1, if you say they can do it just for this $1, well, then they can do it at all. It's a tithe or a tribute of earth and water. It establishes that that can be done. And that's why I'm loving me some Ron Paul, because he's speaking out and saying, this isn't on the list of things that the federal government's supposed to do. In the Constitution it says, anything not delegated to the federal government, like not spelled out, falls back to the states or the individual citizens. And I was like, oh, wait a minute, rights and responsibilities and privileges of an individual citizen, what is that? That's to take care of my elderly. That falls to me as an individual responsibility. Morally, I can't just give that up to government. And that's something I'm changing in my life right now. I'm in the process of figuring out how I'm going to really take care of the 2 generations ahead. And I'm going to let it slide, what they did to me and my generation. I'm going to be forgiving, because if you look at it, they should pay back what they took from us in 1935. There's more. Okay, this is from a section on the relatively extensive Wikipedia article, 43 pages, to be exact. Claim that it is a Ponzi scheme. I'm not going to really get into this. It's quite inflammatory. But I actually want to go to the against argument, which is saying it's not a Ponzi scheme because blah, blah, blah. Here it is. One criticism of the analogy is that while Ponzi schemes and the Social Security have similar structures, in particular a sustainability problem when the number of new people paying is in declining, and it is. In Ida Mae Fuller's time, she had 16 people paying her. Now it's more like 3. They have different transparencies. In a Ponzi scheme, the fact that there is no return generating mechanism beyond just contributions from new entrants is obscured. That's a great argument. That's sarcasm, by the way. That basically, because it looks like a Ponzi scheme, and but Social Security doesn't try and hide it, it's public, that means that it's okay. It's not like Ponzi scheme, because there they try and, not let you know that you're getting hosed down. Whereas Social Security payouts have always been openly underwritten by incoming tax revenues and interest on the Treasury bonds held by Social Security. Okay, and now here's the kicker. Here's where I thought, wait a minute. And think about this. If you're my age, let's say you're 30, and you got 37 more years, assuming they don't change the rules of the game, before you're going to see anything back for all the money you're paying in. And I wonder how much money you'll pay in. I've heard it was, where was it? It's probably at least 1,000 a year, maybe as much as 3,000. I guess it depends on how much you make. Private sector Ponzi schemes, here it is. Just try and find the flaw in the logic here. Private sector Ponzi schemes cannot be sustained indefinitely. So the argument you're about to hear is Social Security can be sustained indefinitely. Whereas Social Security's benefits can theoretically always be sustained by raising taxes on new participants and reducing promised payouts. Isn't that the very definition of fraud? Is changing the deal? Saying, we promised you this, but you're not going to get that. And that's what's going to happen to me in 25 years. If there is, if I have my way, there won't be any. I'll eat it. Just to end this horrible, vicious, wretched system that was started by people in the 30s who went along with it. who bit that apple. Because of these and other issues, Robert E. Wright calls Social Security a quasi-pyramid scheme in his book, Gatelynomics. Anyway, so that's how they're going to do it. They're going to raise your taxes. They're going to, and that's not in there, but they're going to print more money, so the money will be devalued. So you get your money, but it won't buy as much, or maybe won't buy hardly anything. Or they're going to raise the retirement age and kind of just move the end goal. They'll be like, okay, well, now you don't get it till 72. Live to 72 and we'll start paying out. Or they're going to increase the taxes. So the younger people who now, over time, have a less and less chance of getting any sort of reasonable benefit from it, now they'll be paying yet more to kind of keep this thing going. Until when? Until when? And there's actually a fifth thing, and this gets into conspiracy theory, which is, oddly, there's the United States government now has a conflict of interest. They don't want you to live very long. Because that solves the Social Security problem too. If you get rid of people that might later collect. Yeah. Just pointing out a potential conflict of interest there. That all of a sudden it's like, wait a minute, if people die younger, that solves it too. Ida Mae Fuller lived to be 100. So, alright, well, that's my thing about Social Security. Anytime someone goes off on something or presents a case like I have, look at it objectively. Do I have my facts wrong? Did I attempt to deceive? Did I put up a false argument? Any sort of false logic? Or do I have it right? My only objection here, objective isn't necessarily to get you to come around to thinking things my way, but is to add some light, to shed some light and some different ways of thinking about things. You know, we live, this is a reality of our life. This is how it's set up. This has been going on for 75 years. Will it go on 100 years? Will it go on forever? Will it ever end? Will Social Security taxes go down? You know, where's the truth? What about the men versus women thing? What would that look like? What if it were opposite? What about the youth security program? Where young people, they're the ones that need the money. If anything, you know, as you get older, your income goes up. How is that fair? By the way, it is fair because you're more experienced, you're working harder, and you've built something up. But I'm not saying I want that. I'm just saying, well, that's another way to look at it. And if that's not fair, then how is it fair for the older generation to put a yoke on their grandkids? It's really, I just wonder what the ads or the newspaper articles looked like in 1935. So go look up the Wikipedia thing, read the whole thing. It's really quite instructive, and understand your world.